Hey guys, welcome back to King Creek. Today is day one for our pond transformation. We're going to run power to the dock so that we can put in a fountain to help aerate the pond.
Ever since we bought the property, our pond has been overrun with cattails and duckweed. Since the day we sent Mallory's dad out on the SS Swamp Rat, we've been on a mission to clear up our pond. Since adding power to my shop and testing our pump in the pond on an extension cord, we knew we were going to need to add power to the dock so that we could run the pump without tearing it up.
We just used the middle buster on the tractor to make our trench, and it worked out perfect down here by the pond and behind the garden. We need to make one more pass up here by my shed where there's gravel and roots.
The wire we used was a 10 gauge 4-pair that was left over on a project. We've been carrying it around from house to house every time we moved. So it was nice to finally see it get put to use. The audio wasn't good in this clip, but what I'm telling you here is that we're using 2 life rafts and ratchet straps to hold up this pump that came from an old septic system, and then we just reduced it down to a fountainhead. If you've watched our previous videos, you know we found the SS Swamp Rat out in the woods, and right here we're flipping it over since it's been out in the rain for a few days. We'd bought a heavy-duty extension cord to go from our new outlet to the pump, and here we're just trying it out to make sure everything works. Our dock is falling apart, so I'm trying not to fall in the water. It will definitely be replaced in a future video.
All right, moment of truth.
Why is it so weak?
We knew the fountain should have a lot more pressure than it did, so we sent my dad out in the boat to investigate. You can really see here how thick and overgrown the vegetation had become. It was really difficult for him to even paddle a few feet.
Like a crawfish in here. I think there's literally a crawfish in here. Oh my God.
We put an anchor on the fountain, so it was really difficult to reposition once we got it in place, and that on top of the overgrown vegetation just made this really challenging for my dad in this boat. Not long after we installed the fountain, we had an alligator show up in our pond. Since it's illegal for us to handle the alligator ourselves, we hired an alligator hunter, and this is him catching it.
Yeah, we think so.
I can't grab nothing with these gloves on.
Stetson mixed up some Duckweed. We had already tried this one time, and he just sprayed around the perimeter, and it had worked well. So this time he decided he was going to mix up even more and go out in the pond and spray the whole thing. As you can see here, he really took his personal safety very seriously.
Welcome ashore.
This was about 2 days later. You can see the cattails are pretty much dead and most of the pond had turned brown. There were some open spots of green, and those continued to turn brown over the next few days. A few days later, things really started to sink and we started to see little spots of open water. But as soon as we thought we were making progress, the pond started turning green again. So here's Stetson using a product called Sonar. It's pellets, so he put it in a cup and he threw it out in the water. And when we used this, we didn't see much difference. We were back to square one and things were bright green again. At this point, we admitted defeat and we called in professionals. We found this local pond management company and they came out in this boat that can go both in water and on land. They had planned to skim off the duckweed, but once they got here and saw it close up, we realized that it was no longer duckweed on top of the water and it was watermeal, which is much finer and much more difficult to get off the top of the water. So he ended up just focusing on pulling up all our cattails and getting a bunch of limbs and other debris out of the water. After pulling out all the cattails, he also added phosphorus and beneficial bacteria. We were left with a pretty big mess to clean up after the pond management people left, so Stetson rented this skid steer and he spent an entire day cleaning up all these cattails and limbs that had been pulled out of the pond, and he also did a little other cleanup around the property. Mr. PPE came back out to spray the pond again. It is about 100 degrees this day, and Stetson is in a plastic suit. It's a really miserable day for him, but then we really started to see a lot of improvement after this. Every day we saw more and more water open up, and eventually the whole pond was clear. Stetson went back out in the boat and readjusted the fountain again so it would be closer to the middle and it would have a prettier fountainhead on top. So here's a reminder of where we started. And here's the finished product after a lot of blood, sweat, and prayers.